What if one tiny routine, repeated daily, could transform your life? It might sound like an exaggeration, but think about it. Most of what we do each day isn't the result of big, grand decisions. It's the small habits, the little things we do on autopilot that truly shape our days and ultimately our destiny. As the old saying goes, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. In other words, our lives are essentially the sum of our habits. If you can change your habits, you can change your life. And the good news is, building better habits might be simpler than you think. How to build better habits in 4 simple steps. That's the title of Chapter 3 in James Clear's best-selling book, Atomic Habits. And it couldn't be more fitting. In this chapter, Clear reveals a 4-step habit loop that is the foundation of every habit, good or bad. Cue, craving, response, and reward. Understanding this simple feedback loop can fundamentally change how you approach any habit you want to make or break. Let's break it down in plain terms and then see how it applies to real life. Imagine it's early morning. You wake up and automatically reach for a glass of water or start the coffee pot. Why do you do this? Let's analyze that routine. First, there's a cue, a trigger that tells your brain to initiate a behavior. In this case, the cue might be the sound of your alarm or the grogginess you feel upon waking. Next comes a craving, a motivation or desire to change your state. You feel sleepy, so you crave the alertness and comfort of a morning drink. Then comes the response, the habit itself. You shuffle to the kitchen and brew a fresh cup of coffee. Finally, there's the reward, the satisfying payoff that your action delivers. You take that first sip, feeling the warmth and caffeine hit your veins, bringing you to life. Ah, reward. Now you're more awake and ready for the day. In that simple routine, alarm rings, crave energy, make coffee, enjoy it. You have a clear example of the 4-step habit loop in action. The cue was the alarm and morning grogginess. The craving was for energy. The response was making coffee. And the reward was the pleasant alertness that resulted. Your brain takes note. This sequence worked, it felt good, so let's do it again tomorrow. Over time, every repeat of this loop strengthens the habit. The next day, the moment your alarm goes off, your brain notices the cue and remembers the reward that's coming. Without thinking, you find yourself in the kitchen, spoon in hand. The habit has become almost automatic. This cue craving response reward loop is the basic rhythm of habit formation. It's running behind the scenes for essentially all your habits, big and small. Whenever a behavior is repeated often enough to become routine, you can bet these 4 steps are at work. Psychologists have understood this pattern for a long time. Over a century ago, Edward Thorndike observed that behaviors followed by satisfying consequences tend to be repeated. In other words, rewards reinforce habits. Every habit is really our brain's way of solving a recurring problem with as little effort as possible. The ultimate purpose of habits is efficiency, to meet our needs while freeing up mental energy. Think about it. You don't want to have to think deliberately about every little step of tying your shoes or brushing your teeth each day. It's convenient that your brain automates those routine actions. Habits, whether helpful or harmful, form because they work for us on some level. They either give us pleasure and satisfaction or relieve discomfort and pain. Each time we experience the reward, our brain learns that, yes, that was worth doing, and the loop closes, tightening the habit's grip. Now, if every habit follows this 4-step loop, the key to building better habits is to hack the loop in our favor. Clear explains that each step can be guided by a simple principle. He calls them the 4 laws of behavior change. Make the cue obvious. Make the craving, the habit, attractive. Make the response easy, and make the reward satisfying. In short, if you want a habit to stick, you want cues you can't miss, and actions so doable and rewarding that your brain says, yes, let's do that again. Conversely, to break a bad habit, you do the opposite. Make the cues invisible, the habit unattractive, the action hard, and the outcome unsatisfying. These are practical rules, but they all tie back to the psychology of the habit loop. Let's see how this works in a few real-life stories. We'll look at different areas of life, personal growth, business, relationships, and health, to see how cue, craving, response, and reward play out, and how tiny habits can lead to remarkable results. Personal growth story. The two writers. Consider two aspiring writers, Emily and Jake. Both dream of publishing a novel. Emily decides to harness the 4-step habit loop to make writing a daily habit. Every morning, right after she finishes breakfast, the cue, she feels the mental nudge that it's writing time. She craves that quiet hour of creativity. She imagines the joy of crafting scenes and the pride of seeing her story grow. Craving. So she sits down and writes at least 200 words in her journal, no matter what. Response. Some days it flows, some days it's hard, but she always does her 200 words. When she's done, she rewards herself by pouring her favorite second cup of coffee and allowing a few minutes of reading or listening to music. Reward. That little reward makes the writing session feel satisfying. She ends on a positive note each time. Day after day, Emily follows this routine. Cue, breakfast over. Craving, urge to write sparked by her commitment and the coffee she looks forward to. Response, writing 200 words. Reward, tasty coffee, a dopamine hit from accomplishing her goal. At first, it took willpower, but after a few weeks, as the habit loop kept running, the routine became easier. By the 3rd month, it felt automatic. It would actually feel off if she didn't write in the morning. 6 months later, Emily has filled a notebook with stories and chapters of her future novel. Jake, on the other hand, took a different approach. He wanted to write, sure, but he had no clear routine. Some days he felt inspired and wrote for hours, but then weeks would go by with nothing. He had no consistent cue to prompt him, and he often waited for a perfect mood that never came. The days he skipped, he felt guilty, but the habit never stuck because there was no immediate reward or structure. Writing always felt like a huge, daunting task that he avoided. A year later, Emily is far ahead. Her manuscript is well on its way, while Jake is still staring at a blank page. The difference wasn't talent or motivation, it was habit. Emily's tiny daily routine, her simple 4-step loop of breakfast cue, craving quiet creativity, writing response, and coffee reward, compounded into massive progress. This is the power of a good habit. Small actions, done consistently, yield big results. It's like compound interest for self-improvement. Business story, habits for success. Now let's step into the business world. Success in business often comes down to the habits of the people running it. Imagine a young entrepreneur, Maya, who is trying to grow her small business. At first, Maya felt overwhelmed. There were always 1,000 things to do. But one day, a mentor taught her about the habit loop and those 4 simple steps. Maya decided to experiment with a small habit to strengthen her professional network and learning. Every weekday, as soon as she sits down at her desk with her morning coffee, that cue triggers her to perform a specific action. Reach out to one contact or mentor via email or text. Response. The craving behind this habit is her desire to feel connected and to learn something new each day. She craves the little dopamine boost of engaging with someone who might offer insight or even a new opportunity. So perhaps she'll shoot a quick email thanking a customer for their feedback, or send a LinkedIn message to a former colleague to ask how they're doing, or maybe share a useful article with a mentor. It's a small action that takes just 5 minutes. What about the reward? Maya discovered that this habit provided multiple rewards. Often she'd get a warm reply by afternoon or spark a valuable conversation. Even on days she didn't, she still felt a sense of accomplishment for proactively nurturing her network. A subtle pride in being the kind of leader who values relationships. That feeling was rewarding in itself. After a few weeks, this daily networking habit became second nature, an obvious part of her morning routine, and the results began to show. One of those morning reach-outs led to a partnership opportunity. Another led to a mentor coffee chat that taught her a shortcut in product development. By making a positive business action obvious, a attractive, easy, and satisfying each day, Maya built a powerful habit that helped her company flourish. This is no isolated incident. If you peek behind the curtain of any successful business person, you'll usually find a set of steady habits driving their success. Maybe it's a habit of planning the day each morning, or a habit of checking the financial metrics every Friday, or regularly reading industry news. Big achievements in business are often the accumulation of small habitual actions. As the saying goes, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, and habits are your personal systems. Relationships, story, little habits, lasting love. Habits matter in our personal relationships just as much as in our careers. Love, trust, and friendship are built, or broken, a little bit every day. Picture a married couple, Alex and Jordan, who after a few years together realize that the spark is dimming not because of any dramatic problem, but because they've fallen into a habit of neglect. They come home from work, eat dinner while staring at their phones, maybe exchange a few words about their day and then watch TV, rinse and repeat. It's easy to drift apart when you stop paying attention to each other, so they decide to rebuild closeness by intentionally crafting a new shared habit loop. They start small. Every evening when they sit down for dinner, that moment becomes the cue to put their phones away and truly focus on each other. At first, it's a bit awkward. Silence looms, and they feel the craving to reach for the phone. Because, let's face it, we all get a little addicted to those distraction cues. But they replace that craving with a new one, a desire to reconnect. They remind themselves that what they really crave is not another meme or email, but the warmth of their partner's attention. So the response to the cue, dinner time, becomes asking each other about their day and actually listening. They introduce a ritual. Each shares one highlight of the day and one challenge they faced. They laugh and empathize. The reward comes in the form of feeling heard, understood, and supported. Instead of the quick dopamine jolt of a social media notification, they get a deeper, more fulfilling reward. The smile on their spouse's face, an affectionate touch on the hand, the relief of unloading a worry and feeling it shared by the other. That satisfying feeling of closeness at the end of each dinner is the reward that reinforces this habit. After a few weeks, their nightly dinner conversation becomes their favorite part of the day, a cherished ritual. The phones stay tucked away without a second thought. This new habit loop, cue, dinner time, craving, meaningful connection, response, sharing and listening, reward, emotional intimacy and warmth, gradually strengthens their bond. It spills over into other parts of their life. They find themselves giving each other more spontaneous compliments and appreciations. Another tiny habit they added: every morning when they part for work, they each voice one thing they love about the other. It only takes seconds, but it leaves both in a great mood. Their relationship grows stronger on the back of these small daily actions. It wasn't a vacation to Paris or a diamond necklace that rescued their love. It was the humble habit of being present with each other each day. This illustrates a beautiful truth. Even in relationships, consistency beats intensity. Little habits of kindness and attention, repeated consistently, create a foundation of trust and love that can weather any storm. Health story. Tiny habit, massive transformation. We've seen how habits can fuel personal growth, success, and love. Now let's look at health. Perhaps nowhere is the power of small habits more obvious than in fitness and wellness, where big goals like losing weight or running a marathon can only be achieved through many small actions. One of the most inspiring examples comes directly from James Clear's collection of habit success stories. He tells the story of a man named Mitch, who wanted to lose a significant amount of weight and improve his health. At first, this goal felt overwhelming. Where do you even start when you have 100 pounds to lose? Diets and intense workout programs had failed him before. He would start strong and then burn out. So Mitch tried a radically different approach. He focused not on the outcome, but on the habit loop. He committed to a tiny routine that almost seemed too easy to matter. Every day he would drive to the gym, do a brief 5-minute workout, and then leave. Yes, just 5 minutes of exercise per day. In the beginning, people around him were perplexed. 5 minutes at the gym sounds almost pointless. He might do a couple of sets on a machine, lift a few weights, then walk right back out. But Mitch was deliberately training the habit loop, not his muscles. The cue was simply the time of day. Right after work, he'd automatically head to the gym. The craving or motivation he cultivated was to become the type of person who never misses a workout. He actually began to enjoy just showing up because he gave himself permission to stop after 5 minutes. There was no pressure, no dread of a long, painful session. The response was that quick workout, in and out, and he made sure to give himself a satisfying reward each time. After the gym, he'd stop by his favorite smoothie shop for a small protein shake, or he'd go home and take a relaxing hot shower. These rewards made him feel good about completing the routine, reinforcing the loop. In the first few weeks, the changes in his body were negligible, but something else was happening. He was casting votes for a new identity. He was becoming someone who works out every day. Once this identity took hold and the habit of going to the gym was firmly established, Mitch gradually started extending his workouts. 5 minutes became 10, then 15, then 30. He didn't force it. It happened naturally because now he craved the feeling of going a little further. Over the span of a year, those tiny increments added up. Mitch ultimately lost over 100 pounds. His transformation was astounding, but it all started with a ridiculously small habit, a loop so simple that it was almost impossible to fail. Cue: driving home from work leads straight to the gym parking lot. Craving: the desire to stick to the routine and feel that "I did it" moment. Response: a short workout. Reward: a sense of pride and a tasty post-workout shake. By mastering the art of showing up, as Clear calls it, Mitch changed his story. This example shows that the 4-step habit loop, applied strategically, can unlock even our most challenging goals. Tiny actions, done consistently, are far more powerful than big actions done only once in a while. Each of these stories, the diligent writer, the networking entrepreneur, the loving couple, the transformed athlete, shows the habit loop in action. In every case, small daily actions led to significant outcomes over time. It's inspiring but also deeply practical. It means anyone can improve their life by working with the science of habits. You don't need to completely revolutionize your life overnight. You just need to understand how habits form and tweak the system to work for you. Cue, craving, response, reward. 4 simple steps, a cycle that you can shape. If you remember nothing else, remember this pattern. When you decide on a habit you want to build, design a cue that will trigger you without fail. Ensure you have a genuine desire or motivation, craving for that habit by connecting it to something you value. Make the action itself as easy and convenient as possible, so you won't resist doing it. And give yourself an immediate reward, even a small treat or a moment of satisfaction to reinforce it. Do this, and you tilt the odds heavily in favor of the habit sticking. And when it comes to breaking bad habits, invert the formula. Remove the cues, reduce the appeal, make it harder to do, and remove the reward or add a consequence. Bit by bit, loop by loop, you can curate the habits that serve you and discard the ones that don't. The beauty of Clear's approach in Atomic Habits is that it feels both philosophical and practical. On one hand, it's a philosophy of life, getting one better each day, focusing on systems rather than sudden breakthroughs, embracing the process rather than fixating solely on goals. On the other hand, it's grounded in real psychology and actionable steps. Do this small thing, then that, and you'll gradually rewire your routine. It reminds us of an empowering truth. You have more control over your future than you might think, because you can control your habits. Those tiny daily votes for the person you wish to become. Each time you repeat a habit, you're reinforcing the path to a new identity, whether it's "I am a writer," "I am a caring spouse," or "I am a healthy person." And as those identities grow stronger, What once required conscious effort becomes second nature. That's the magic of habits. To wrap up, reflect on your own life. What is one small habit you could start today that would make your life better if you repeated it tomorrow and the next day and the next? It could be as simple as writing one paragraph, doing 5 push-ups, flossing one tooth, sending one thank you text, or saving $1. Start with just one and run it through the 4 steps. Set up an obvious cue, connect it with a craving or motivation that matters to you, make the action itself as easy as you can, and give yourself a pat on the back or little reward afterward. Then repeat. Protect that small habit and allow it to grow naturally. Over time, you'll be amazed at how that tiny action can snowball into profound change. Remember, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Small investments, if done consistently, accumulate into something very significant. James Clear's Chapter 3, How to Build Better Habits in 4 Simple Steps, isn't just a catchy title. It's a roadmap. Follow those 4 steps, apply them to the habits that matter in your life, and there's no limit to the growth and improvement you can achieve. In the end, building better habits is less about having iron willpower and more about strategically designing your environment and routine to make good behaviors inevitable and bad behaviors difficult. It's about being a bit of an architect of your own life. You've learned the blueprint: cue, craving, response, reward. You've seen the blueprint come alive in stories of real people. Now it's your turn to use it. Start small, stay consistent, and watch how those simple steps lead to a better, brighter life. Every great journey begins with a single step, or in this case, a single habit loop. So choose one habit and begin your journey. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying, and let the power of habits compound in your favor. Your future self will thank you for it, because little by little, day by day, you'll be building the very best version of you.